Food is part of training. You could argue it's the most important part of training. If your nutrition isn't good enough, you don't have the energy to train. And if you don't have the energy to train, then you're not going to get any better. I'm preparing to run a half marathon at the beginning of March, and I'm currently running 100 kilometers a week with a fair amount of sub-threshold volume in there. Because I want to get in the best shape I can to try and take a huge chunk off my half marathon PB while still being able to balance training around the rest of my life. And if I want to do that, I've got to keep the training consistent. I've got to keep it at the right level of intensity of overall effort. And if I want to do that, I've got to eat. The key thing as with training is to work out a consistent and achievable framework that I can carry out every single week. Minor dips and slips can be accommodated, but the main stuff has to be consistent. Enough overall calories, enough carbs, enough protein, enough fat. Life is really busy and I don't really like cooking, which is unfortunate because I really like eating. So over time I've come up with a set of meals that I know I like, I know I'll eat regularly, and that are relatively easy to put together. The core framework of these meals are predominantly whole foods, 3 main meals each day with as much nutrient density as possible, and then supplementing that with additional fueling in and around workouts and with snacks when required. The other key thing is to ensure a decent amount of variety, getting carbs from different sources, proteins from different sources, and by doing that we can make sure we're getting a good spread of micronutrients alongside our macronutrients. Because overall calorie intake is really important when we're training a lot. If we can cover a really good spread of micronutrients in our main meals, it means the in-betweens, the snacks, the workout fueling can be more in the category of just being calorie dense. And we can be a bit more strategic with it and get those carbs in around the workouts when we need them the most. I don't worry about whether a food is good or bad in these instances. Fuel is fuel. Breakfast. My most common breakfast throughout the week is potato, eggs, beans, black beans usually specifically, and spinach, all cooked up together, chucked in a bowl with a little bit of salt and some sauce. There's often 30 grams of pumpkin seeds as a side to this as well. This covers a lot of key elements early on in the day. We've got 3 different protein sources from the eggs, beans and the seeds. We also get a pretty broad swathe of different vitamins and minerals along with that, as well as some good fats, dietary fats from the eggs and the seeds. I like to try and get a good amount of green veg into the diet, so spinach is a solid one to put in. I do quite a bit of cabbage at various points in the week as well, and having the green veg in there regularly just make sure we definitely hitting that like broad spectrum of vitamins and minerals throughout our meals. When we're training really hard, our immune system needs some help because we're battering it, so just making sure we're getting a good spread of vitamins and minerals just really helps with supporting the immune system and making sure we're in fighting shape as much as possible. We don't want regular bouts of sickness disrupting training. At other points in the week, if I need to take breakfast with me to work, I'll do overnight oats or something like that, and I'll boost up the overall nutrient capacity of the meal by chucking in some blueberries, chia seeds. Sometimes we'll put a bit of yogurt in there to help boost the protein of that up a little bit. Once a week, I like to treat myself to avocado and poached eggs on toast. Ideally, I would have avocado more often because it is just really good food, but living in the UK, avocados have to be imported from really far away, so that does make them more expensive than other fruits and vegetables. So unless I can get opportunistic in the reduced section, I just don't eat a ton of avocado. Before long runs, it's just carbs. I'll probably make myself a couple of pancakes or something before I go out on a long run. Just get it in and then get out on the run. Lunch. Lunch is usually either ramen or rice and beans. I eat a lot of beans. So many beans. It's just occurred to me that all 3 of my main meals today have beans in them. Tomorrow's poops are gonna be fibrous. The ramen is a vessel for more nutrient density. Packet ramen is really high in sodium, but that does make it a really good strategic choice for days when I have a pretty high training volume. I've got pretty long interval workouts at the minute, so throughout the rest of the day following the workout, I want to make sure I'm getting my salt levels back up. Packet ramen, specifically Shin Ramen, is my favorite brand. It's just an easy way of doing that, and I really, really like eating ramen. Because I don't typically coach one-to-one sessions until either the afternoon or I have a morning of coaching and then I'm back home for lunch. I can like cook lunch at home. So this means I can make up the ramen and I can chuck in a load of cabbage, I can put in tofu, I can put in mussels, I can make it more of a hearty meal with a high protein content and a lot of nutrient density. Sometimes there'll be an egg in there. So I've taken the packet ramen and elevated it pretty easily with different protein sources and green veg and just making sure we're getting the nutrients in there. I may sometimes make myself a little pot of yogurt and dark chocolate as a kind of pudding. Yogurt is obviously a bit of extra protein, but the dark chocolate is a really good thing to have on a day-to-day basis. It's again just really, really nutrient dense. So I don't have much, I just have like a couple of squares and that's enough. Get some good fats in there, get some more nutrients in there, boost up the iron content of the overall meal plan for the day. The rice and beans probably doesn't seem like the most nutrient dense option, but there is a reason I eat so many beans. They have a lot of good stuff in them. I rarely get ill, like really, really rarely get ill. I feel like I have to put that down to my diet. Just having so many beans and nuts and things in there. The zinc content and other like vitamins content of my diet is just quite high. And I feel like I have to, put my general resistance to illness just down to the vitamin and mineral spread in my day-to-day diet. And beans are a big part of that. As I said, they've got a lot of good stuff in them. At the weekends, lunch is a bit more fluid. It'll vary a bit. Saturday lunch is at work, so that'll kind of be whatever I feel like eating on the day. It might be sushi, there might be some instant noodles in there, maybe it'll be a sandwich. It just really varies. I don't worry about that too much. I just usually try and hit the calorie count with that one. Sundays is often just a pan of Bubble and Squeak fried up, which has a bunch of veg, and I'll boost the protein content of that up with corn or something. Again, just getting the key stuff checked off and not worrying too much about it. The second food and cooking starts to get complicated, I am just way less consistent with it, so I try and keep it as simple as possible. Evening meals. I've put together a 4-week rolling menu. This consists of meals that are pretty easy to cook and that fit into our general schedule. There's a lot of one-pot meals in there. I do a lot of stews, curries, chilies, the kind of thing where I can cook up 2 days worth of evening meals so that I've got at least a day where I don't have to do any cooking. But there's also quite a lot of burritos and fajitas in there because they're just really easy to put together and really easy to make, as well as just being some of my favourite meals. Love a burrito, love a fajita. There will be fish in there from time to time. I might occasionally make fish on a Saturday evening, but the most complicated it gets is me shoving it in some tin foil with a bunch of spices and sticking it in the oven. Again, it doesn't get very complicated. Once a fortnight we have a treat of salmon risotto on a Monday evening, but again, it's really, really basic to make. It just sounds fancy because there's salmon in there. There do generally just continue to be a lot of beans involved. None of it's groundbreaking stuff, it's just stuff that I can be bothered to cook that still has a good nutrient content in it. Workouts. When it comes to nutrition, more immediately in and around my workouts, this is where I choose to strategically use more processed foods. I make my own gels, but that still does involve me just making them out of maltodextrin and fructose, both highly processed products. I will buy sports drinks from, like a corner shop that's on the way home after my interval workout, or I stash one in a hedge if I'm doing an out and back route. My go-to pre-race meal is 2 Belgian buns. When I'm going to be expending a lot of energy, the primary goal really is just to have a vessel that makes getting the fuel and refuel done as easy as possible. Get the glycogen in there quickly. We're covering the main macros and micros in the main meals. So here we're just gonna go for whatever is gonna get the energy stores back up ASAP. Keep on top of the carbs, then our recovery is a lot better and we can be more physically ready for the next workout. We'll use protein shakes, but again, pretty strategically. Typically on days where I'm doing a lower body leg session, or if I just have a lot of activity that day, I might use a protein shake just to make it a bit easier to ensure that I'm getting enough in. Don't use them every day, just when I feel like I need the help. And snacks happen on an as needed basis. If I'm hungry between meals, I eat a snack. Don't really worry about exactly what the snack is. Sometimes it might be carrot sticks and hummus. Other times it might be a chunk of cake. The key thing is I'm just going to respond to those hunger cues when they happen. And in terms of additional supplementation, there really isn't a lot extra that I add in. I do supplement for creatine and I take vitamin D. Creatine is a very heavily researched supplement, so it's, as far as I'm concerned, one of the best ones you could take if you are wanting to try and boost up your training performance. I tend to find it really helps with my memory and just sort of day-to-day mental performance if I'm taking creatine regularly. Vitamin D is a good one to take. A lot of modern diets aren't very high in vitamin D, and it is fairly essential for maintaining bone health and helping with supporting the immune system. And I live in the UK. There is a fairly large chunk of the year where the sun just isn't around much. But that's it. Those are the only two extra things that I supplement in my diet. And that covers it really. I try and keep the food situation as straightforward as possible. The less I have to think about it, the more consistently I can stick to it. The 4-week menu has gone through some changes because I had some meals in there that there was just too much prep involved, and I just find myself at risk of not bothering and then ending up with something that just wasn't at all what I needed for the amount of training I was doing. So I've just learned, keep it as simple as possible. Don't try and overcomplicate it. Going into the next 2 months of training, it's going to be extra important that I keep on top of the nutrition. Keep consistent with the food, keep listening to my body. If I feel like I need more, then I eat more. If I notice I'm losing weight too fast, eat more. If I'm feeling more fatigued than I should be, eat more. Take care of the fueling, to take care of the training, and I'll stand a much better chance of reaching my goals. Training is going pretty well. When this video comes out, I'll be in Denmark for a few days. I might have a little bit of a challenge fitting my training in. The weather is not looking that friendly. I'm not sure. The Danes are a bit more organised than we are about everything. So I'll have to just wait and see what their pavements are going to be like. I'm probably going to take a pair of trail shoes with me just in case it is actually snowy, but I think they're better at gritting their roads and pavements than we are here. So I might still be able to do my workouts, but I'm possibly just going to have to feel things out and play it by ear. But come back for the next video to see how well I got on with that. I am still dealing with some minor injury niggles. The leg situation with the sciatic nerve is steadily getting better. Continue to not really be too worried about that. The ganglion cyst has gone pretty much. There's a little bit of a lump there still, but it's gone down a lot more than it was even 2 weeks ago. I have been slacking a bit on my mobility work, so I do need to get back on that and make sure I'm actually getting it done. And as ever, when you're running every day, there are bits and pieces that keep popping up for a few days and then disappearing again and then coming back. So I need to make sure I'm actually doing the mobility work and taking care of that to keep those at bay. If you have any particular meals that you lean on to make sure you're getting the fueling for your training, I'd love to hear about them in the comments below. And if you want to catch up on how the rest of this training block has been going, there will be a playlist linked in the pinned comment on this video. And if you want to keep tabs on how the training block is going as I work towards taking a big chunk off my half marathon PB, then subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.